So we'll look at some current work. Next slide. And the first of these that's been ongoing for some time and is has quite a bit of detail in it now is specimen event tracking. And as you might imagine, the specimen and the events associated with tracking it throughout the healthcare enterprise is quite an undertaking. Our group has been able to create a common framework for vendors to manage the nature in which specimens travel from the point of collection and then throughout a single healthcare organization and then also between healthcare organizations. And so there's a number of use cases there for tracking the collection of the specimen, the movement of the specimen both within the organization and across organizations, taking into account that there may be points where the specimen is rejected and or re-identification of the specimen container is necessary as it moves either within different parts of an organization or to a new organization. A specific use case has been highlighted for tracking specimens within biobanks, biorepositories, and the nature of the identification that needs to occur, either additional identification, de-identification, those kinds of things. And then all of the derived specimens that may be derived from a parent specimen and how that full audit trail and chain of custody related to a specimen might be supported by vendors. Our hope is that it's going to reduce the design burden on the other ancillary systems that otherwise are trying to track specimens within their limited purview of the scope of their software, and instead create a more holistic framework for how different vended systems can more robustly support specimen movement and tracking of those specimens for the benefits of patients and research throughout our healthcare enterprise. Next slide. We would love to have your assistance on this. If you have a software product involved in management of specimens, I believe this profile can be very useful. There's a data element matrix that's currently being defined and message structures that are being detailed. And we're trying to ensure that there are not tracking steps that we have missed. So I encourage you to reach out to that link and participate in this IHE process. Next slide. All right, anatomic pathology, of course, is changing with the advent of the FDA announcement of the first approved digital pathology system for primary diagnosis in the United States, and other countries already having moved forward with digital pathology systems and architectures. The glass slide is no longer becoming the norm for microscopic diagnosis. DICOM Working Group 26 has been working at this for a long time to create a standard file format and metadata and data elements that are necessary to support the digital pathology workflow. DICOM Working Group 26 is helping us to move forward our profile development relative to digital pathology, and we have very strong collaboration. And we're trying to think about anatomic pathology workflow digitization, but also trying to reimagine it, rethink it in a setting where pathology laboratories have a significant quantity of digital assets to maintain, and what the benefits might be, and how best to mitigate costs and increase the efficiency of a digital pathology workflow. So there are 10 use cases that have been established as the initial effort that we're going to focus on. At the recent meeting, a collaborative meeting between IHE Pathology and Lab Medicine and DICOM, there was a consensus that we really need to focus heavily on the acquisition of digital images and the workflows associated with that as the base starting point, really flush those out really well. And that's really what the first white paper is going to focus on. The date is a little open to flux, so as Riki mentioned earlier, we are planning for a fall release, but please check the website, and the link is going to be following here in a little bit for the exact timeline. All of the content is available there. The drafts are available there. We have a number of authors, but would welcome more. We're looking for vendors of all of the different components involved in digital pathology workflow to weigh in, to let us know which use cases we've got right, which cases we need to strengthen a little bit, and you know, what are those elements of the profile that they feel their vended product can support, and or where we need to enhance the profile to support their place in the market. Next slide. And so here's just a depiction and pretty large simplification of some of the way in which our group is looking at the various actors and transactions involved in the digital pathology workflow. You know, we started with this as kind of a proof of concept, and then recognize that you know, there's many functions within the holistic workflow for digital pathology that might be played by different vendors in the future. IHE does a very nice job of naming actors. So instead of, you know, describing an LIS as having a prescriptive set of functions or functionality, there's a description of, you know, an order filler that takes an order that's placed by a physician, say in the EHR, that's described as the order placer, and then that order is translated into various work order steps and acquisition of digital assets, which are then managed by asset managers and evidence creators to do things with that digital image. And so we have an exciting road ahead of us to create an environment where we can have vended products that hopefully in the future are able to plug and play with each other to create digital pathology pipelines to enhance the workflow within the pathology laboratory, to redesign what, you know, the way in which diagnostics occur in the world of anatomic pathology, but also to create a whole new level of interoperability and interaction among various vended solutions, so that we can really take advantage of having digital assets, such as being able to insert artificial intelligence, machine learning components, and various types of analytic tools into that pipeline to enhance the way in which a pathologist renders diagnosis for patients. Next slide. And of course, we need your help. So there's a lot of work involved. We have a relatively or hopefully complete set of use cases, but there's always more. We do need your help on prioritization. There's a draft white paper that's out there, and again, our initial focus is on the acquisition, but we're going to quickly move from the acquisition of digital assets into what we do and with those digital assets once they've been acquired. Would love to get your input on the midterm and long-term prioritization of these future efforts. And if you have vendor partners that you work with in your organization that you feel would benefit from being involved, then please help us and reach out to them and let them know about this effort. Next slide. If you want to contribute, there's a number of ways to be able to do it. There's some links on here. I would encourage you to talk to your organizational leadership about applying for IHE membership. There's a very large family of IHE members already, you know, I think a commitment to having products that work well with one another. I think that's in everyone's best interest. Our pathology, anatomic pathology, and laboratory planning and technical committees are available at the link that you see there. Even if you're not a member, there is mechanisms for participation. Everything is open, everything is freely downloadable from the website, and your thought leadership and volunteer effort is welcome. Next slide. So with that, we're going to conclude this webinar. I want to thank you. Very much want to thank the coordinators for IHE across the world. Our secretariat, represented by the College of American Pathologists. Riki, any concluding remarks?
So there's one more slide for folks that have access to the slide deck later that lists all the acronyms. So if you were confused by any of that 3, 4, 5, 6 letter acronym soup, this is where you can look up and find the letters corresponding to their descriptions.